Hey, Steve Mignani here with some really good junkyard news. If you're going to be anywhere near Sherman, Texas on March 24th and 25th, know that there's going to be an outdoor auction put on by duncansauctions.com of over 200 solid Texas parts vehicles. There's going to be Fords, GM, Mopar, lots of tractors, and even forklifts. These things all have to go. It's an online auction, but also an on-site auction. If you happen to be in Sherman, Texas, you can go and bid in person or again, online, but all 200 vehicles have to go. Don't let them get crushed. To learn more about this auction, which happens on March 24th and 25th of 2023, check it out on duncansauctions.com. And keep in mind, if you're seeing this after March 24th or 25th, 2003, the auction's over with. But before then, make sure you check it out and save some of these cars. Don't let them go to the crusher. Hey, Steve Mignani here doing the junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with a 1967 Cadillac Deville convertible. We'll call this one the double Deville. There's one here, there's one there. Rust takes no prisoners. But here's the thing, in 1967, Cadillac had four lines: the Calais, the Deville, the Fleetwood, and the Eldorado. Of course, the Eldorado was that front-wheel drive miracle machine, an outgrowth of the '66 Olds Tornado. But again, the Deville was the only one available with a convertible body. Now, it is true that the Eldorado eventually got a convertible option in 1971, but if you wanted a convertible Cadillac in '67, you got yourself a Deville, like this one here. Now, of the 139,807 Devilles built, 18,200 were convertibles, like this one here. The price on this was $5,602 new. Now it was only $216 more than a Deville Coupe, or a Coupe Deville. Now this one here, being a 67, is the final year for this thing right here. This is the Cadillac 429. This basically was replaced by the 472 in 1968. But again, 1967 is a one-year deal with the Rochester Quadrajet 4-barrel carburetor on top of the 429. Now the Quadrajet is a spread-bore emissions carburetor. The two primaries underneath this choke plate way down inside are small for economical cruising, but at the backside, the two secondaries are massive for full throttle power. So again, 1967, the only year for the Quadrajet on the 429. Now here's the thing, we can look below the valve cover here in this amazing junkyard cutaway and see Cadillac's pedestal style rocker arms and conical tiny little valve springs right here. Now these things are great for 4,900 RPM, but if you want to take a hot rod or a Cadillac engine and hot rod it, your enemy is those valve springs. They're so small in diameter, it's hard to get a lot of spring on these things. So the camshaft specs have to be kept mild because you go into valve float if you try and use a hot cam with that tiny spring. And with that said, the pedestal, this arrangement right here with a lot of spring, these pull out and break. So these engines are really best left alone, but they make plenty of power, 340 horsepower. But again, 1968, the 472 would come along with 365 horsepower, and then the 500 would arrive in 1970. Now, of course, this has the stacked headlights, which were seen on all Cadillacs from 65 through 68, except for Eldorado, which did have horizontal headlights. But again, all metal here and some aluminum right there, no plastic. Cadillac was still doing big, heavy land yachts at this point in time. Now, another detail about this car is that we notice the exhaust manifolds basically have 1, 2, 3 outlets. The two center exhausts fight for the same spot through this Siamese center exhaust. The 472 and the 500 replaced it. They had 4 individually spaced exhaust manifolds. So this is kind of a cork, but here's the thing. Cadillacs from 1961 onward had single exhaust. So Cadillac didn't really care about high flow dual exhaust systems. So that sort of exhaust manifold was just fine for this low RPM torque maker. But again, no dual exhaust on Cadillacs after 1960, but they did have big single flow systems, which were pretty effective. Now this one here has drum brakes up front. You can see right here, big 11-inch drum right here. The self-adjusters, which are standard equipment on all Cadillacs. There's a self-adjusting stuff right there. When you back up, the adjuster would take up the slack and tighten the shoe to drum arrangement, so you didn't have to do it yourself. Again, self-adjusters, believe it or not, were a big deal. Riveted linings, oops, right here, you can see those holes. These are not bound, these are not adhered. These are actually riveted to the steel backing, and there's the rivets right there. When that was new, that was a superior setup to the bound or glued friction linings. This one, again, being a convertible, You know, it's $5,602, and again, just $216 more expensive than a Coupe Deville. I'll say I'll take that with a smile. 67, first year for this padded steering button right here. And it's amazing how this thing has come through all these years without cracking. It still looks pretty good. But again, that was, believe it or not, a safety feature, which would help you to prevent some of the stitches you might have in a sudden stop. But again, here's the 120 mile an hour speedometer, the odometer, all that good stuff. Everything is laid out. AM, FM radio. We have more stations, signal seeking right here. Kind of cool. All of this stuff, standard equipment. No manual transmissions in Cadillac, strictly going to be an automatic right there. Power windows were standard in Calais, although you paid extra in the Calais, you had wind-up windows. In the Deville, you got standard power windows and power door locks. And if you like building model cars, Johan did a series of Cadillacs. This is the last one. This is from the early 1980s. And you notice that the Boss Man, that's a reference to Boss Hogg on the Dukes of Hazzard without having to pay Warner Brothers a fee for the use of the term Boss Hogg or Dukes of Hazzard. But again, remember that Boss Hogg used to drive around in a Cadillac convertible kind of like this. But this is the model kit that was originally released in 1968. And again, Johan also did 66, 7, 8, 69 Cadillacs, but this is the 68 Deville, which is similar. But again, if you want a Cadillac convertible, you're looking at a Deville and nothing else. Now we look here, and here is the back of it, the power top standard equipment on Deville. And you gotta love how the Cadillac standard of the world, right there, there's the logo on the rub strip on the rocker. Now, something that I want to point out, and one thing I love about the junkyard, it's a classroom as it is a museum in a sense. And if you know your wheels, your steel wheels, you know that they're not all the same. If you look at Cadillac steel wheels, look at this thing right here. It looks like it's backwards. If you look at this, the stamping here looks like it's reversed in the hoop. This is the spider, that's the hoop. For comparison, this is a Chevy full-size wheel. Look at it, how it's basically looks like it folds in on the back. When you reverse it, you can see this, right? Well, like Cadillac, right? So I thought either somebody bolted this wheel on backwards or that's by design. Well, check it out. It is by design. You might say, why? Well, Cadillac stylists also spent a lot of time on the hubcaps. If you look at this, it's a very deep hubcap right there. It goes all the way in. This hubcap won't begin to fit on a Chevrolet. See that gap right there? It won't work. But by reversing the spider in the hoop, it goes right on. So basically, the reason why Cadillac had these weird reverse spiders is to fit that extra deep hubcap. Now we know. These wheels were seen from about 1960 through 68 or so. And if you go to the junkyard, when you see that, don't worry, some idiot didn't put the wheel on backwards. That's how they're meant to be, on Cadillacs only. In fact, Chevrolet, Oldsmobile, Pontiac all had their own stamped wheels. Kind of weird, but kind of true. Now here's a dealer brochure right here, 1967, Cadillac standard of the world. And there it is right there. Let's take a peek at each page and just absorb the opulence, the luxury that was and is Cadillac. Gold, ink, kind of cool. The year 1967 will unquestionably be one of the most exciting and memorable in the history of Cadillac motor car until 68. Anyway, but then we look at each page, beautiful artistic renderings, perhaps from Boulevard Photographic, not sure, but just long. In fact, these illustrations make the cars look far lower than they really are. And again, these are illustrations, not photos. But again, with that said, here's the Eldorado, front-wheel drive, the miracle car, the very first year, 67. No stacked headlights here, they were horizontal. But again, here is the full-size Fleetwood 75 long wheelbase. Beautiful car, but they all pretty much had the same grille, which was a good thing because Cadillac wanted to have a family resemblance. There's that Eldorado again with the horizontal lights, no verticals on Eldo. But again, you could get a convertible Eldo in 71, the second generation. Let's just run on through here. And here we have the Deville, right? This is the Deville, sort of the upscale Coupe Deville. And then this is Deville convertible. The glamour of the Deville convertible is further dramatized by the excitement of its interiors. 13 leather interiors are offered when the bench seat is selected. 4 leather interiors included the black leather shown at right Orville with the bucket seat option. Yep, you could get buckets in your Caddy. Very sexy, very forward, very sporty at this point in time. But again, this is Cadillac wants to sell you a new car right here. Inside the trunk, let's see what we got. big trunk. Look at this. I mean, just it's almost as long as the hood. I would dare say that a Chevy Corvair trunk on the front is about this length. Mustang's a little longer. Maybe the Nova's about this long, but again, Cadillac, long hood, long trunk. Standard equipment, standard design, and here we have the inside of this. We can see the original red on display right here. And this rubber hose, this is for the power trunk release. There's a button up front, there's a vacuum canister. You hit that thing and pops your trunk open for you. The release right here being vacuum operated. Massive trunk. These are body on frame, obviously, because the frame on this one's long gone. And this thing might look like an air cleaner lid, like off a Tri-Power Eldorado. Thanks, Shane. But this is actually the spare tire cover, this thing right here. The spare tire would be in here. This thing would go on to hide the ugly side of things. This would have been black. And this is the original spare tire cover. And inside, yeah, the original upper door panels, all of this with the little tuck and roll, the buttons, plush stuff right there, all kind of looking all right. Cardboard in the end. It is, after all, it's a mass-produced car. It's not a Ferrari or a Rolls-Royce. But with that said, there were a total of about 7,000 of these things, or 18,000 of these things were built back in 1967. So if you wanted a cool drop-top Cadillac, your only choice was the DeVille convertible. Now, if you like this video and you're happy that we've answered the mystery of why Cadillac wheels are backwards, well, be sure to subscribe to this channel, tell your friends, like this video, share it, and also be sure to ring the bell, which will alert you when the next video hits, and that's tomorrow morning.